Jay here with COMANCO, and today we're going over the usage of an extruder gun, the safety do's and don'ts, and the standard operating procedures to laying down your extrusion beads. Let's get started. First off, plug the unit in. You've got a 220-volt cord here, connecting the two plugins. Automatically, the indicator lights on the control box will light up. The lower indicator for the heat band will start heating automatically. Now it's up to you in the field to know what kind of material you're welding with and at what parameter the specific materials need to be set to. Today, I will be using 5mm high density polyethylene, as well as working in-house, in which I will be using the basic factory settings of 400 degrees Fahrenheit on my air controller, 500 degrees Fahrenheit on my heat band controller. Different climates and materials call for different indicator settings. Just raise and lower your set points with the controller's up and down buttons accordingly. Things to check for during the heating process. While the unit begins to heat, there's a couple of things I like to check before making my welds. I like to shake around the main power cord a bit to see if power cuts in and out from a loose and/or broken wire. If you see all the displays fully lighted up, you know you're pretty much good with that. Make sure nothing's cutting in and out, and we're good. Now, while the heat band is heating, I turn on my preheater air. To run the motor, we just have this switch right here. The preheat motor automatically turns on. Right here, you see the set point of 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and you see the ambient temperature that the heater is producing right now, which is 110, about there. All right, so we want to heat it up to 400. All we're going to do is hit the heat switch on the green light. You'll see the green indicator light light up, letting you know the unit is heating. I've made sure my insulation blanket is good and tight so as not to get burned by the heat band inside. I checked both my thermocouples to test for any visible malfunction. The second one from the top is your air thermocouple. Give it a slight wiggle from both ends of the wire, nothing too aggressive. We're not trying to bend or break any leads, just checking for weak points. Now, I am looking to see if my number is staying constant. If we have a sporadic jump while wiggling the wire, you know you've got a bad thermocouple. Our air is staying stable, so I know we're good. The thermocouple wire on the very bottom is your heat band and is the most important one to check. A faulty heat band thermocouple could result in liquidized plastic shooting out of both ends of the nozzle and feeding hole. Nozzle and feeding hole, potentially burning and sticking to your skin. With that being said, all that we do is shake the heat band thermocouple, both ends, and we make sure our number is stable. If our number is stable, we are good to go. If it's jumping around all over the place, we've got a problem. After all that's been verified, now it's time to extrude. We start by squeezing the trigger on the handle, running your rod tail through, and feeding the new roll into the barrel. Always leave a tail of rod hanging after you're done, but run the tail through when you start. What you should do out in the field, everybody ties a nice clean rag against their extrusion rod before they feed it into the hole. This just keeps from particles, dust, rocks, anything like that from going through the barrel. Put it in, right through the feeding hole, just like so. Just like that. We'll take any remaining plastic and discard it. Now we're ready to start our extrusion bead. Place the shoe in the center line mark of the material sample that you're welding. Before applying your main weld, always do a trial weld to test how well your set parameters are working with given material. Begin making your bead by squeezing the trigger till a small dollop of plastic forms in the front of the Teflon shoe. With a steady, even flow, push the extruder along the center line of the material, covering entire grind mark with plastic, leaving no exposed area of mark. We just start by squeezing the trigger. After the bead has been made, check the trowel welded sample for excessive heat creases on the bottom side of the sheet. If this occurs, you may have to look at your setting parameters and your speed, as you may be too hot or too slow. Cut a sample of your trial weld to test if threshold values are passing, and if they are, you're ready to weld. Basically, this is my trial weld. If you see all this molten right here, you know that's a bad weld. We're going either too hot or too slow. All this looks okay, but yeah. This will be deemed a fail out in the field. Any kind of crease, ripple, any penetration through to the bottom, no good. We stick the sample through the bone cutter, our pneumatic bone cutter. Button here, press both at the same time. Now we have our extrusion bead sample and we are ready to test on the tensiometer. After all tasks and welding are complete for the day, make sure to leave a tail of rod hanging out of the feed hole, like so. Remove any piece of rod stuck in the Teflon shoe to prevent bogging of drill motor. Flip off preheater heat switch until top controller temp comes down to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll see the green light shut off and you'll see the ambient temperature begin to cool. Once this reaches 200 degrees on the left-hand side, you know you're good to kill the motor. This process will usually take about a minute or so. Now that the preheater has reached 200 degrees Fahrenheit, we are now good to shut off our blower motor. Unplug the 220 volt unit from the cord and you are all good to go. It's important to follow this procedure. This is a consistent issue coming through as a negative safety observation of at least 20 past year from HCSS Safety. Improper shutdown techniques of the preheater blower motor could cause into heat element failure and melting of the turbine housing. That's all I have for you today. Hopefully you got something from this lesson that you can bring out to the field with you, and as always, stay safe out there.